Hello everyone. Our presentation is about dance and movement-based therapies, presented by Bianca, Elijah, Katie, Mireille, Rezel, Zakoya, and Zane. Starting with our table of contents, we will first discuss the key aspects of the therapy, then the major contributors and its strengths and weaknesses. We will then talk about the current research, therapy effectiveness, and then discuss a case study. After that, we will discuss the requirements to practice this therapy, the technical skills, as well as our discussion and conclusion. What is DMT? DMT, also known as dance movement therapy, is a psychotherapy that creatively engages the body through dance, aiming to improve the integration of one's cognitive, emotional, physical, and social well-being. Its effects and aspects have contributed to helping clients with depression, stress, personality disorders, rehabilitation groups for prisons, forensic populations, or PTSD, eating disorders/body images, intervention techniques for ASD, quality of life for clients with dementia, and health-related outcomes for cancer patients. DMT is implemented through a structured yet flexible session led by a trained therapist and typically ranges between 60 to 120 minutes for about 1 to 3 times a week over a selected number of sessions. With sounds and music being the main tools used to support engagement and therapeutic outcomes, some equipment may include ribbons, balls, and/or hoops. A quote written by Christopher and others in 2025 state that dance therapy can be an effective way to support ongoing or standard treatment by increasing meaning-making and motivation in treatment. As dance therapy enables better stress management through illness acceptance, motor learning, and increased recognition of functional skills and strengths, additional key aspects of DMT include mind-body connection, movement as communication, client flexibility, emotional expression, social connections, and therapeutic relations. Starting off with mind-body connection, the fusion between physical engagement and mental/emotional welfare supports the safety of the body while engaging in agency and mindfulness skills. Now onto the key aspect of movement as communication. DMT uses storytelling and meaning through dance/movement as a therapeutic practice, aiming to improve quality of life and interconnection of the body, mind, and spirit, as it supports safety in the body, sense of agency, supporting mindfulness skills, and attentive to interaction. On to client flexibility. DMT can be applied to various conditions and age ranges as mentioned previously, with little to no tools involved. It provides an adaptable and flexible practice. Emphasis on adapting dance therapy based on participants' capacity, energy, and needs. From the flexibility of conditions and clients, the emotional expression can also provide many helpful outcomes for clients that go through DMT. Even with a lower dosage, the severity of depression was still reduced in a study written by Karku and others in 2019. As the provided effectiveness in psychological problems such as depression, stress, autism, and quality of life, the implementation of DMT can be combined with other interventions to provide more optimal results. Now on to the next aspect of DMT. Social connections. The practice model of DMT creates immersive and interactive spaces that facilitate better engagement, social skills, and self-esteem. Many studies have discussed how the improvement of social skills, including the expression of emotions, synchronization, and behavioral changes, have affected those that exhibited DMT practices. Now on to the last key aspect of DMT, which is therapeutic relations. Practitioners' relations is a key and foundational aspect, as this prompts consideration of a correlation between a relational approach in dance therapy and positive outcomes in the treatment. Many studies emphasize the importance of involving artists, designers, and therapists to develop a richer, more inclusive therapeutic experience. Now we'll be discussing the major contributors to DMT. Dance has been used therapeutically for thousands of years. Traditionally, dance was linked to healing and was used to influence fertility, birth, sickness, and death. It is rooted in the idea that the body and the mind are inseparable. Its basic premise is that the body movement reflects inner emotional states, and that changes in movement behavior can lead to changes in the psyche, thus promoting health and growth. The use of body movement, particularly dance, as a cathartic and therapeutic tool is as old as dance itself. DMT became an established profession in Western countries from the 1940s, when the first pioneer developed professional dance therapy concepts, which spread in Eastern countries and worldwide beginning in the 1990s. Over the years, the National Dance Education Organization has arranged conferences solely for the educational perspectives in dance/movement therapy, bringing in countries all around the world to describe how their unique culture shapes DMT. Countries include South Korea, Japan, New Zealand, Netherlands, Germany, the UK, Canada, Argentina, Egypt, and many more.
Going over the strengths to start, in a 2019 study, researchers analyzed 41 controlled interventions involving dance movement therapy and other dance interventions to investigate their effectiveness on depression, anxiety, quality of life, and interpersonal and cognitive skills. The results suggest that dance movement therapy significantly improves quality of life, reduces depression and anxiety, and enhances interpersonal and cognitive skills. These findings highlight the strengths that dance movement therapy has on mental health, well-being, and cognitive skills through its effectiveness in evidence-based interventions. In another study completed in 2015, researchers noted that some adults respond poorly to antidepressant medication, or they have trouble expressing their thoughts and feelings. Therefore, they implemented dance movement therapy for clients who have no treatment or standardized care alone, such as drug therapy, to help reduce symptoms of depression. Researchers ended up finding that for individuals who utilized dance movement therapy, there was a reduction in symptoms of depression compared to individuals with no treatment or just standardized treatment alone. This result emphasizes another strength of utilizing dance movement therapy for individuals with depression who are not seeking any other treatment or are only seeking one form of standardized care. Finally, another study completed in 2020, researchers implemented dance movement therapy to improve individuals' body image. The intervention was conducted over 14 weeks for 14 participants diagnosed with an eating disorder. Before and after the interventions, participants completed a body satisfaction questionnaire to allow researchers to analyze the effectiveness of DMT. Following the questionnaire, researchers observed a significant improvement in body satisfaction. Researchers also noticed a decrease in participants obsessing over their weight and body image. These findings indicate another strength of implementing dance movement therapy to improve body image for individuals with eating disorders.
Hey, I'm Katie. This is my story, how dance movement therapy helps me in my recovery from my eating disorder. Dance movement therapy is a way to connect with your body and emotions through movement. A lot of the time, you don't use words, just your body. I've been battling my eating disorder for 3 years. Some people think an eating disorder is about being skinny or that people choose to have it. But an eating disorder comes in many forms and for many reasons. For me, it began when I started running. I wanted to be healthy and strong, and running helped me quiet the overwhelming thoughts and feelings. But after some time, something just switched in my head, and it became an unhealthy obsession. I became a compulsive exerciser and restrictor. My mind gradually had me portioning out less and less. I became hyper-focused on my exercise routine and eating regimen. All that mattered was completing my reps in a strict time limit, the same time, every day. It was a schedule in my mind. Any deviation from my routine really ticked me off. I missed out on a lot of life because I was so much in my own head and didn't know how to let go. I developed body dysmorphia, which is like looking in a funhouse mirror, but you don't know that it's not real. I was disconnecting from my body, and I no longer had a relationship with myself. First, I met Erin, the dance movement therapist at Children's Hospital Colorado. Mostly, I worked with Erin one-on-one. Erin wanted me to learn to let my body do what it wanted to do, instead of what I was making it do. But it was awkward at first, and I was overwhelmed. I had low self-confidence, and I did not think I was a good dancer. Not a good dancer, this is overwhelming, too much food, I feel awkward. These thoughts were like a running dialogue in my mind, almost paralyzing. I felt like I couldn't do it, like I didn't have control. No one understood. I felt so alone. Erin had me push against a wall, and we played tug-of-war. This allowed me to release my pent-up energy and to discover what I was really feeling. I learned that I'm aggressive and defensive to protect myself from getting hurt. If the wall comes down, then I'm vulnerable and scared. It's hard to let people in and entrust so much of yourself to other people. It helped me to have a way to express myself without words. There's so much going on in my head that there's no way I can get it all out with words. Dance movement therapy sometimes is about stillness too. One day, I talked to my heart and apologized for all the torment I put it through. Erin did a body tracing. I identified emotions where I felt them in my body, filling in different areas with different shapes and colors. Sometimes Erin had me release my tension through weighted blankets and deep pressure. There are highs and lows in recovery and therapy, just as there are highs and lows in life. Dance movement therapy helped me get through the good times and the bad. Dance movement therapy helped me connect with myself and with others. Dancing freely allowed me to feel more comfortable with myself. I began to see myself clearly, but at times I still struggle. So when I feel fear, tension, and aggression, I dance it out! Dance movement therapy gave me a wider perspective. It allows me to go from here to here. Focusing on the cool moves detaches me from negative thoughts and interrupts the looping in my brain. Before, I was scared of the future, and I didn't look forward to it. It felt like one big obligation. Now I'm excited about the future. Dance movement therapy has improved my relationships because I'm no longer afraid to be honest with people. Honesty strengthens your connections to others. Dance movement therapy has given me a healthy outlet. It allows me to be free.
Although there are many strengths to using dance movement therapy, there are also several weaknesses to implementing the strategy. For instance, dance movement therapy is a very flexible and spontaneous therapeutic approach, as each session is tailored to the individual in that moment. This makes it harder to conduct structured quantitative research compared to a control study. This lack of structure makes it harder for researchers to produce clear, measurable data, ultimately suggesting an absence in scientific research that supports this method. Another weakness to this approach is that it focuses on nonverbal expressions such as movement, emotional expression, or posture. This makes it harder to rely on verbal assessments or surveys to collect data. This makes it challenging for researchers to collect objective data regarding the effectiveness of DMT, ultimately affecting the quality of DMT studies since findings are less reliable. Finally, dance movement therapy is often not covered under insurance, and there is limited allocated funding to support DMT. This creates a financial barrier which can restrict individuals from accessing this therapeutic technique.
Most current research on dance and movement therapy, including randomized control studies, systematic reviews, and meta-analysis, shows that DMT has positive effects on mental health and psychological well-being, but findings are inconsistent and they are not strong enough. So more high-quality studies are needed to confirm its effectiveness. To explore this further, we will discuss some example research studies in the following slides. The first study we are going to focus is the dance movement therapy for depression, done by Meekums and his colleagues in 2015. It is the first systematic study of DMT for depression, and the purpose of the study is to examine the effects of dance movement therapy for depression. The researchers analyzed 3 randomized control studies with a total of 147 participants, including 107 adults and 40 adolescents. People of any age with depression as defined by the trial list were the participants. They were put into the 2 groups. One is control group and the other one is the group that got the treatment. The study did not find any strong evidence that DMT significantly reduced depression, but some participants showed reduced depressive symptoms and improved moods, but the results were not consistent and strong. Major limitation of the study is it consisted only 3 studies, but they are different in methodology and study design. And the study consists small sample size and low quality evidence. Overall, this shows that DMT is promising, but the evidence is still limited to treat depression. The second study we are going to focus is effects of dance movement therapy and dance on health-related psychological outcomes, done by Kioch and his colleagues in 2019. The purpose of the study is to examine the effects of DMT on mental health and to understand the factors influence its effectiveness, and it also find out whether the results last for over time. It's a meta-analysis includes experimental intervention study. The independent variable was dance or dance movement therapy, and the dependent variable was health-related psychological outcomes, which was grouped into 6 clusters: quality of life, clinical outcomes, interpersonal skills, cognitive skills, psychomotor skills, and schizophrenia. The researchers analyzed 41 studies published between January 2012 to April 2018, including 2,374 participants. This study found out medium to large improvement in quality of life. People felt better. The interpersonal skills were very strong, and their social skills improved. They think better. They had improved feelings, improved depression and anxiety, and better motor skills. It's found out that DMT decreases depression and anxiety and increases quality of life, interpersonal skills, and cognitive skills. But there's no strong evidence that DMT can be used to treat schizophrenia. But it helps mental and social and emotional functioning of the people of schizophrenia. The major limitation of the study is there was a large improvement in social skills. The researchers think that it may be influenced by subjective rating methods. Overall, compared to early research, this study provides stronger evidence that DMT can be used to treat health-related psychological issues. Now we are going to look into the research dance movement therapy for dementia done by Kaku and his colleagues in 2023. The purpose of the study is to assess the effects of dance movement therapy on behavioral, social, cognitive, and emotional symptoms of people with dementia. This study included randomized controlled trials, which included people with dementia of any age and in any settings. Therefore, only one study is eligible for the inclusion in this review, so which shows that the research in this area is limited. It was a three-arm parallel group randomized control trial conducted in Hong Kong involving 204 adults with mild neurocognitive disorder or dementia. It examined the effects of short-term group dance movement therapy in comparison with exercise and a waiting list control group immediately post-intervention and 3 and 9 months later. So the participants were divided into two groups, treatment group and the control group. The study found that DMT has little to no significant improvement in cognition and behavior compared to the control group. And there were no any evidence of effects at later time points too. But the research found out there's a small improvement in depression and it lasted after the therapy has ended. The limitation of the study. This study included only one study and not all the participants had dementia. Some had milder problems. Therefore, the researchers are not certain if dance movement therapy is effective in supporting people with mild dementia, and we can't say that anything about its effects in moderate to severe dementia. So the researchers concluded that there is not enough evidence to determine whether DMT is effective for dementia, but there was a small improvement in depression. This highlights that major gap in research, especially for the population with dementia. The study we are going to focus is the healing effect of goal-oriented dance and movement therapy in schizophrenia, done by Gogson and his colleagues in 2020. The purpose of the study was to examine the effect of goal-oriented dance movement therapy on symptoms and functions in individuals with schizophrenia. The study used a rater-blinded, randomized controlled prospective parallel group design. 32 individuals currently receiving services at the community outpatient center were recruited in the study. All the participants were DSM-5 diagnosis of schizophrenia for 2 years, 18 to 65 years of age, clinically stable under antipsychotic medications, and they speak Turkish. So they were put into two groups, DMT group and control group. The therapy involved structured movement activities, goal-focused exercise, and emotional and social engagement. The research found out there is an improvement in symptoms. The results indicate that significant improvement in the goal-oriented dance movement therapy group in negative symptoms, general psychopathology, and function remission, specifically social and occupational functioning when compared with the control group. But further studies with long-term follow-up and larger samples are needed to support these results. This study shows that DMT is an effective complementary treatment for schizophrenia. Next, we are going to look into another research study exploring quality participation through dance movement therapy for Parkinson's disease, done by Shirasifo and his colleagues in 2024. The purpose of the study is to explore how people with Parkinson's experience dance movement therapy, like how dance movement therapy contributes to their autonomy, belongingness, challenge, engagement, mastery, and meaning of their life. It is a single case study with semi-structured interviews that involved 8 participants. 6 of them were women and 2 were men, from a dance movement therapy program for individuals with Parkinson's disease. All the participants were recruited during class. There were no exclusion criteria regarding the age, sex, or the severity of disease. Each participant attended a single in-person one-on-one semi-structured interview which lasted for between 20 to 60 minutes in duration, conducted by the second author. It's a qualitative approach. The research found out that it increased the participant enjoyment and improved mood through dance movement therapy. And the participants reported that the therapy increased their confidence. It may have some limitation because of the potential bias. There were no numerical data. It's a qualitative research study, and only it included small sample size, 8 participants. However, dance movement therapy supports emotional well-being, social connection, and meaningful participation in individuals with Parkinson, even though it's a qualitative research study.
Dance and movement therapy, or DMT, is classified as an emerging therapy in the field of mental health. To begin with, DMT is a therapeutic approach that uses movement and body expression as a way to support emotional, cognitive, and physical integration. Unlike traditional talk therapy, DMT focuses on the idea that the mind and body are deeply connected and that emotions can be expressed and processed through movement. One of the key reasons DMT is considered as an emerging therapy is because although it has been around for decades, it is still gaining recognition in mainstream healthcare systems. More clinicians and researchers are beginning to see its value, especially for individuals who may struggle with verbal communication, such as trauma survivors, children, or people with certain mental health conditions. There is actually a growing research support for DMT. Studies have shown that engaging in structured movement can help reduce symptoms of anxiety, depression, and stress. So, which means it can also improve self awareness, emotional regulation, and social connection. So, for example, group DMT sessions often help individuals feel less isolated because movement creates a shared experience without needing words. Another important point is that DMT is actually already being used in real clinical settings. So it is applied in areas such as mental health treatment for depression, PTSD, and rehabilitation programs. Schools also and community centers also, and last, has worked with individuals with developmental or neurological conditions. Now, this shows that DMT is not just theoretical, it has practical applications and is already helping people. However, despite these benefits, DMT is not fully established yet as a standard evidence based therapy. One reason is that there is still actually a need for more large scale, high quality research studies. So many existing studies have small sample sizes or lack consistency in methodology, which makes it harder to generalize the findings. Additionally, DMT can sometimes be misunderstood. Some people may see it as simply dancing rather than a structured therapeutic intervention guided by trained professionals. Now, this misconception can affect its acceptance in more traditional medical settings. So, in summary, dance and movement therapy is a promising and innovative approach supported by growing research, already used in practice but still developing in process or in terms of strong scientific validation. Now let's talk about a closer look at the evidence and research behind dance and movement therapy. So first, It's actually important to know that peer-reviewed studies have known positive effects of DMT. Now, this remains that research on DMT has been evaluated by experts and published in academic journals, which adds credibility to the findings. Many of these studies report that DMT can significantly improve emotional well-being. Participants often experience reduced anxiety, and stress improve mood, increase self-esteem. Now, one of the unique benefits of DMT is its ability to improve body awareness, also known as body-mind connection. This is actually especially important because many mental health conditions, such as trauma or depression, can cause people to feel disconnected from their bodies. Through guided movement, individuals become more aware of their physical sensations, their posture and tension, how emotions are expressed physically. Now, this awareness can help people better understand and actually regulate their emotions. Another strength of DMT research is its application across different populations. So there's actually studies that shown benefits for adults with depression, children with behavioral challenges, individuals with trauma, and older adults with cognitive decline. Now, this suggests that DMT is versatile and adaptable. However, despite these positive findings, there are still important limitations in the research. Now, what is that? One major limitation is small sample sizes. Many studies involve only a small number of participants, which makes it difficult to confidently apply the results to larger population. Another limitation is the lack of large randomized controlled trials, or RCTs. Now, RCTs are considered the gold standard. So in research, because they compare treatments group with control groups in a controlled way, without enough large RCTs, it's actually harder to prove that DMT is consistently effective. Now, there's also a consistently effective variability in how DMT is practiced. Now, different therapies may use different techniques, session lengths, or approaches, which makes it difficult to standardize the therapy for research purposes. Now, additionally, measuring outcomes in DMT can be challenging, since it focuses on emotional and physical expressions. Now, some benefits are subjective and harder to quantify compared to more structured therapies. So, while the evidence is promising, the field still needs larger and more rigorous studies, standardized methods, long-term research on outcomes. Now, overall, the research tells us that DMT works in many cases, but more evidence is needed to fully establish as a scientifically validated treatment. Now, to conclude, let's evaluate dance and movement therapy based on the evidence and discussion so far. First, it is important to emphasize that DMT is not a fringe therapy. This means it is not something outside the boundaries of professional practice. It is actually recognized and trained by therapists, supported by professional organizations, and used in clinical and community settings. Second, DMT is supported by empirical research. As we discussed earlier, multiple peer-reviewed studies have shown that it can improve emotional well-being, body awareness, and mental health outcomes. Now, this gives it a solid foundation and distinguishes it from therapies that lack scientific support. However, DMT is still developing as an evidence-based practice. While there is a growing research, it does not yet have the same level of strong, consistent evidence as more established therapies. Now, the limitations were discussed, such as the small sample sizes and a lack of large RCTs, highlight the need for further research. Now, because of this, the best overall conclusion is that DMT is promising but not fully established. Now, what does promising really mean in this context? It means the therapy shows clear positive outcomes, and it also has theoretical and practical support, and it is also increasingly being used in real-world settings. But not fully established means more high-quality research is needed, and is not yet universally accepted as a standard treatment. There is still variability in how it practiced. Now, looking ahead, the future of DMT is likely to depend on continued research and funding, greater awareness among healthcare professionals, and integration with other therapeutic approaches. If these areas continue to develop, DMT would become a more widely recognized standard treatment in mental health care. Now, in conclusion, dance and movement therapy represents an exciting direction in therapy, one that highlights the importance of the body in emotional healing. While it is not yet fully established, its growing evidence base and practical applications suggest that it has significantly potential for the future.
Dance therapy can be utilized throughout a lifespan, from helping infants bounce and strengthen muscles to youth exploring their identity, as well as the ability of expression and communication. Today we will focus on elderly with neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's and how they can benefit through dance and movement therapy. Introducing Mr. John Bay. Mr. Bay is an 80-year-old farmer who recently moved into a long-term care home. His wife of 60 years has recently passed away, but his 2 children and 4 grandchildren visit regularly. Mr. Bay has a close and loving relationship with his family, who now take care of the farm. Mr. Bay was very active on his farm and heavily involved in his community. 5 years ago, the family seen a gradual decline in Mr. Bay's ability to complete tasks and movements, where he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a progressive and debilitating neurodegenerative disorder. This caused motor symptoms such as tremors, rigidity, posture instability, difficulties walking, and difficulties with his balance and coordination, as well as non-motor symptoms such as depression and insecurity of his impairments. Mr. Bay has been treated with a combination of medication, diet adjustments, and physical therapy, but reports no significant improvements of his symptoms or improved quality of life. Mr. Bay values his independence, music, healthy foods, and family time or social interactions, and struggles with insecurity of his impairments, invoking feelings of inadequacy and causing him to socially withdraw, showing symptoms of major depression. Mr. Bay gets quite upset during personal care, insisting he can do it by himself without assistance, placing him at risks of falling or failing to complete self-care tasks such as showering, eating, and traveling. Mr. Bay has 3 goals of therapy. 1 is to increase mobility, 2 is to increase his independence, and 3 is to increase his social interactions. This would also include decreasing his depressive symptoms, which are causing him to socially withdraw. Dancing with Parkinson's. With a client-centered and holistic focus on Mr. Bay's goals and interests for social inclusion, mobility, and music, dancing therapy is widely known and accepted form of therapy for this population of elders living with Parkinson's disease. Initiatives like Dancing with Parkinson's Canada provides in-person, group home, and online dance sessions which have shown significant improvements in body control and motor performance, stability and strength in muscles, and improved coordination, balance, and control, as well as, and most importantly for our client Mr. Bay, is increased independence and functional autonomy. And 1 month of participation in specialized dance classes has shown improvements in these areas. The benefits of dance therapy for Mr. Bay are multidimensional, spanning from physical, cognitive, emotional, and social domains. The pairing of music and movement through dance reduces rigidity, tremors, gait freezing, and fatigue through physical movement, showing neuroprotective enhancements in cognitive functions and connections, an improved sense of well-being and quality of life, with reduced symptoms of depression, with a sense of community, belonging, and connection. Dopamine releases that dancing provides. Not to mention how accessible and transferable these new connections are. Dance therapy is exceptionally accessible, adjustable for differing capabilities to all participants to feel its benefits of connection and autonomy. A method that can be utilized at home in long-term homes, always keeping the client's preference of music in mind. Dancing therapy has the magic ability of utilizing neuroplasticities. Neurons that fire together wire together, and neurons out of sync just simply do not link. Because Parkinson's is a neurodegenerative disorder, there is a natural decline in narrative impulse connections and communications between the mind and the body. Parkinson's interrupts the pathway connected to our premotor areas of the brain. But music regulates neurotransmitters and releases dopamine. Rhythm also synchronizes neural activity. So rhythm paired with instruction synchronizes neural connectivity and strengthens alternative synapses in the brain, allowing elders to make new connections to activate motor functions that are often impaired by Parkinson's.
Therefore, neuroplasticity plays a major role in dance therapy for elders suffering with Parkinson's by strengthening alternative pathways and connections to target movement in response to music. Engaging the entire brain, rhythm, whether played out loud or imagined, synchronizes neural firing and transmission of information, and movement and releases dopamine, the reward system of the brain. This improves their ability to move independently, remain dignity for their autonomy, and improve their quality of life. So, our recommendation from Mr. Bay is to utilize dance and movement therapy to address his Parkinson's disorder symptoms as well as his depressive symptoms. And this symptom reduction is due to neuroplasticity.
As for where to go to school or train to work in this field, when it comes to dance and movement therapy, the Dance Movement Therapy Ontario, or DMTO, overseeing body requires students to enter the profession at the master's level of education. This is to say that a student wanting to enter this field must have a bachelor's degree in a related study such as psychology, dance studies, movement studies, or social work, for example. On top of this, students must have also completed supervised clinical internships throughout their education relevant to the field. Moreover, the Code of Ethics and Professional Requirements put forward by the College for Registered Psychotherapists in Ontario, as well as the American Dance Therapy Association, must be adhered to and subsequent requirements completed in order to specialize in this part of the field. This is where we run into an issue when it comes to specialization of as there are currently no master's level training programs in dance and movement therapy within Canada. This leaves two options to become certified in this practice. One, you could study abroad, which I will go over in the next slide, or if you wish to remain within Canada, you can engage in the alternate training route put forward by the American Dance Therapy Association, where you can work towards your accreditation through either the National Center for Dance Therapy in Montreal or the West Coast Dance and Movement Therapy Center in Vancouver. As there are no fully fledged master's programs for dance and movement therapy in Canada, working towards accreditation at one of the two centers listed above is the main way to get your accreditation in this practice. As for the National Center for Dance Therapy in Montreal, which is the primary and closest location to get your accreditation in dance therapy, the admission requirements for those wanting to engage in this subfield require 5 years of dance experience minimum, having a master's degree in a dance or health-related field, and successfully completing an audition, all in order to be considered for acceptance into the program. This is to say that due to the educational circumstances at play with the lack of master's programs specific for dance and movement therapy within Canada, and the lack of a provincially accessible training path, makes this field a very difficult field to break into. The requirements for training listed above are steeper than if one were to study abroad or do a master's level program if we were to have one. Where then they could start at the master's level and have a wide range of degrees and experience applicable. However, with the pathway we have, one must have already finished their master's level degree in a related field, as well as we have steeper entry requirements when it comes to past experience in the field. The 5 years is discussed above. And all of this is just to start working towards your accreditation within that dance and movement therapy center, where more years of training and internships await. This is to say that if you want to engage in the alternate route for training, you have to be very dedicated to dance and movement therapy, have an applicable master's level education, a strong history of working in the field, as well as being prepared to strap in for the long haul, as this takes an additional 3 years to complete on top of all the other requirements listed prior. When looking at the option located in British Columbia or working towards the accreditation online through this option, there are workshops offered that adhere to the coursework proposed by the overseeing body, which is the dance and movement therapy body, where one can engage in self-directed study, attendance to the workshops and courses, and supervision/intern hours. Moreover, this pathway is more focused on those with psychology, counseling, social work backgrounds compared to the Montreal option, which is more focused on those with a dance background. However, the issue with the British Columbia option is it's further away, and if you were to do the self-guided pathway online, it requires you to manage your continuing education very closely and ensuring that the accreditation steps you are working towards are being completed like in the proper manner for that specialization. Overall, this could take a much longer time as well. However, it would be more part-time than it would be to go to the Dance and Movement Center in Montreal and work towards your accreditation. All of this is to say that working towards your accreditation with dance and movement therapy is a viable pathway that allows students to get into the field all within Canada, and hopefully one day there will be a locally accessible training path or even a fully dedicated master's level program within the country or even in the province. However, with all this being said, if you did want to go to a master's level program for this field, going to the United States for your education is the closest and most viable pathway. There are also options located in Europe, Asia, Australia, as well as South America. However, the States would be our closest. So in the next slide, we will be taking a look at some of these American programs, as well as a couple of the international options for those who would be interested in a formal educational option for getting into dance and movement therapy. Now, for where to go to school for dance and movement therapy. As mentioned in the prior slide, Canada does not have a master's level program for this practice. So, in order to receive a formal education for this level, one will have to look outside of our country. As for the closest option to us, Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York offers a master's level program for dance and movement therapy. This is a 4-semester, 60-credit program that is available to those with a bachelor's degree in a related study. Once this program is finished successfully by the student, they will have the educational requirements to become a dance and movement therapist approved by the Dance and Movement Association's regulatory body. Also, due to this and the next program I will be discussing being based out of the United States of America, you will also be completing the American Dance Therapy Association's requirements as well. As for North America's leading university when it comes to dance and movement therapy, Drexel University out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, offers a Master's of Arts in Dance and Movement Therapy and Counseling, which, like the previous institution, will provide students with the requirements needed by the American and international regulatory bodies to engage in this therapy. Moreover, this prestigious program is well-rooted in the history of the practice and is a long-term staple of dance and movement therapy education. As for overseas options for dance and movement therapy, BRECA Centro de Práctica, Formación y Investigación en Psicoterapias y Expresivas y Danza Movimiento Terapia in Buenos Aires, Argentina, offers a master's level degree in dance and movement therapy. This institute is also the only option in South America when it comes to formal education in this field. This is to say that the options in the Americas for this therapy and formal education around it are slim. In total, there are 8 accredited master's programs on this side of the world. However, if you branch out to Europe and Asia, there are much more options available for master's level education, and the options of places you can go for schooling for this increase drastically. Out of the many programs available, Codarts University for the Arts in Rotterdam, Netherlands, excels in dance and movement therapy, and their program is offered in English as well as internationally renowned. There are many international options when it comes to meeting the formal educational requirements for those not seeking the alternative pathway mentioned earlier. These are just a choice selection of some of the programs I noticed. However, there are many more available. Going back to Codarts University, however, I chose this one for Europe as it is a very renowned and prestigious program. This is to say, like, if you could get into there, that would be one of the better places you could experience a dance and movement therapy program out of, as well as it would set you up very good in your career, as it's a very prestigious spot to get that sort of program. As for where in the Greater Toronto Area you could send clients to receive dance and movement therapy, there are some options. However, many of them don't have the applicable accreditation and offer dance and movement-based therapies without specifically completing the requirements discussed earlier. As for dance and movement therapy specifically, Maya Creative Care offers DMT for individuals, groups as well as offers virtual sessions. This center is led by a dance and movement therapist who got their training and accreditation abroad, which adheres to the requirements for dance and movement therapy as outlined by the regulatory bodies in the prior slide. This is to say that Maya would be the leading care for this sort of therapy, and other instances around the GTA might be lacking master's level accreditation or offering similar services that don't require the actual formal training. This is to say a therapist might engage in music, art, crafting, dancing, or movement-based strategies while helping clients and offer these services. However, when it comes to real dance and movement therapy, Maya is the leading and pretty much only locally accessible option that has completed the needed training in order to engage in this therapy in a real and meaning way. This issue is due to this not really being a formal or government-implemented regulatory body within Canada. So many therapists can engage in similar therapies and list it as a service while not being formally educated in dance and music therapy, for instance. Perhaps they might just have a background in music or dance or art or something like that. Whereas Maya was the only location I could find locally within the GTA that upholds the American and international requirements supporting empirically backed dance and movement therapy. So if you were to send a client to receive this therapy, Maya would be the best option. And you could also send them to other alike and similar services around the GTA if that is not accessible. However, it won't have all of the empirically backed and proven methods that dance and movement therapy brings with it.
After completing this video, we will partake in an in-class activity that demonstrates the technical skills in DMT, followed by discussion questions that are presented right here. Here is our references. Thank you for watching.